I have a calm down corner for Calvin. I mean, it was literally the thing that kind of, he would ask to go there. And he knew when he was starting to get riled up, and we put in pillows and he's like, I can really punch a pillow. I'm like, yes, please punch a pillow. Like, I want to punch a pillow sometimes, you're not going to hurt the pillow. Hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Parent Chat. There is a lot of anxiety going on with our children. It's starting earlier, it's starting younger, and boys and girls alike. There is this anxiety epidemic that we are currently dealing with, and as parents, we don't always know how to handle it. I've dealt with it firsthand. With Calvin, he was getting belly aches all the time, like clockwork. Every night after dinner, he'd get this belly ache. And once I ruled out it was any physical issue, I found out it was anxiety. Well, what do I do with a 7-year-old at the time who's dealing with anxiety? How do you talk to a kid who's going through it? How do you navigate those feelings and those emotions? Sissy, Goff, and David Thomas are therapists, authors, and they're co-hosts of the podcast Raising Boys and Girls. Sissy specializes in girls and David specializes in boys. And they've become dear friends of mine, helping me navigate some of the anxiety issues that Calvin has been through. They also have a new book out called Capable, and they really specialize in helping parents navigate anxiety with their children. They give you the tools you need to get through what could be a very difficult time. Here's our conversation. Oh my gosh, it is so nice to see you guys in person. Thank you for being here. And then when I had some issues in my family, I reached out to you guys first because my kids were going through a tough time, and you guys have helped my family through so much. I think as a parent, it's so important for us to be kind of hyper aware of these emotions. And and that's why I had first reached out to you guys, because I noticed Calvin's actions were not typical Calvin actions, right? He was angry. He had a bellyache before bed. He was kind of hyperventilating where he's like, I need some fresh air. I need some fresh air. And, we were living in an apartment at the time. So we had to go all the way outside and bring him outside to get him some fresh air. And I was like, what is going on? What am I doing as a parent that's causing this angst in his life, right? And just different life events that were happening in our family at the time. It made sense that Calvin was going through a difficult time, but I thought he was too young for that. He was 7, I guess, when I first talked to you guys about it. But 7's not too young, is it? I mean, they're feeling all the feels. And do they just not have the tools to know how to get through it? What's going on?
So often they don't have the tools yet, but they absorb it. I always think there are certain kids who are kind of like the thermometer outside showing what's happening internally, inside the home, inside of themselves. But they not only don't have the tools, but they don't have the words so often. And so we don't know what's going on. And it's such a picture of you and who you are, Dylan, that you were so dialed into him that you could tell this isn't normal for him. And that's really what's most important, because then we can step in and help.
And I feel like it was easier for me to be dialed into Calvin. He's my first. He had the most attention, right? And then I'm thinking of Ollie and Rusty. Again, right now they're 6 and 4, but they're starting to show maybe some signs of what could be anxiety. I notice in myself, I'm not as dialed in. And I'm like, are they just being quiet? Is Rusty just being a 4-year-old who has these tantrums? Or could this be a sign of anxiety? What is a parent supposed to look for? What is off in your child that you should be, you should start thinking about?
Well, it's tricky. I think even as you were talking about birth order, like birth order is a key component where it often does present so differently. And then temperament's one more layer where we might see evidence of things that feel really different from a classic firstborn. You're sitting with 2 firstborns. And so I think there's a lot about the firstborn profile that does show up differently in the world. But we talk a lot about the first indicator light of watching for things that feel out of character, which is exactly what you were doing, or evidence of regression, kids going backwards more than forwards. So kids who've slept successfully through the night, who are struggling to climb out of bed and come to their parents' room with regularity, kids who maybe had successfully toilet trained, who are having accidents, things that feel really different or like movement backwards that goes on with consistencies.
My oldest has celiac disease, right? So he typically gets stomach aches, which is kind of why his initial stomach aches went under the radar for
So
me.
hard to tell.
And a friend of mine was saying she's taking her daughter to the doctor because she has stomach aches. I'm like, oh, well, watch out for celiac disease. I'm like always the celiac parent. And I asked what the diagnosis was, and the doctor said anxiety.
Yes.
And I was like, no way, because Calvin kind of dealt with that too. I feel like so many of my friends' kids the doctors are diagnosing their kids with anxiety,
Mhm.
but with no tools to fix it.
Right.
So, what do we do about it?
We have several layers of things we would typically recommend. And one of the first things that's so simple, but again, they don't know what to do. All they know is something is taking over their
Hmm.
bodies in those moments. And what's happening when we're sitting here calmly is we have blood flowing all throughout our brain, including going to the prefrontal cortex that helps us think rationally and manage our emotions.
Hmm.
When we get anxious, the vessels in our brains constrict and it shifts the blood flow to the amygdala, which dictates fight or flight, sometimes
Oh.
freeze. Depending on the kid, it's going to look different. And so when we can start with some breathing, I mean, as magic, it just dilates the blood vessels in the
Mhm.
brain and shifts the blood flow back. But you say something different for boys first a lot of times.
With boys, oftentimes we have to start with movement. So boys have a lot of physicality to their emotions. It's why
Mhm.
toddler age boys are more prone to biting, hitting, kicking,
Mhm.
screaming,
Mhm.
throwing, and teenage
Yes,
boys a little more
yes.
prone to punching holes in drywall. And that need for release is something we can't pay too much attention to. And now what we do with that release could be good or bad. And
Mhm.
so often before boys could get to the benefits of breathing, they need to do some moving. So running laps in the driveway or shooting hoops in the backyard, jumping on a trampoline,
Mhm.
something that provides a movement based release first so that they could calm themselves enough to get the benefits of breathing second.
So move first, then go
Move
Mhm.
into some
first, then
breathing,
Mhm.
breathe.
And then girls can breathe and then move.
and then move.
Yes.
So as a parent, how do you get your kid to do that?
We love 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Anything employing the senses is going to help them out of the looping anxious thoughts. So
Mhm.
tell me 5 things you see. Tell me 4 things you hear. I'll get the senses backwards. Tell me 3 things you smell, 2 things you feel, 1 thing you taste.
With boys, I love the idea of a calm down corner. So,
Hmm.
some kind of space in a house where boys can go to release that physicality. And when we're teaching this concept with kids, we've got a lot of oversized pillows in our office. So, we'll talk about how it's always okay to scream into a pillow, never okay to scream at a family member. It's okay
Mhm.
to punch a pillow. Pillow's not hurt. You don't want to ever punch your brother. Giving them these different outlets rather than just saying what I think we can mistakenly say to a lot of kids was just stop being so angry, but I'm not giving you
Yeah.
a constructive outlet of what to do with that emotion of anger.
Mhm.
So the calm down corner, particularly if we build that with boys, I love helping them brainstorm some of what could go in that. And I often will recommend parents go to, a used sporting goods store and get a kickstand that they use at martial arts studios. And a lot of boys
Mhm.
are drawn to even just the fun of that. So it's
Mhm.
like, I can tell you're having big feelings. Let's head to the calm down corner. Even let them
Mm.
name the calm down corner.
I will vouch for that 100% because of you, I have a calm down corner for Calvin. I mean, it was literally the thing that kind of he would ask to go there,
Mm.
and he knew when he was starting to get riled up. And the workbook you sent me, when Calvin was first kind of having these bouts of anxiety, I went through it with him every night. We read books together, but we were reading a chapter from the workbook, and the calm down corner was part of the one of the activities we were doing together. And we put in pillows, and he's like, I can really punch a pillow. I'm like, yes, please, please punch a
So
pillow. Like,
good.
So
I
good.
want to punch a pillow sometimes. You're not going to hurt the pillow. And he hasn't needed to use it in a little while because he really just he knows how to breathe now. He knows how to regulate
Yes.
himself. I know how to talk to him.
Yes.
But now I'm noticing I think I need these calm down corners for the other two,
Yeah.
because Oliver will certainly he kinda gets really quiet.
Yeah. He's more of an imploder.
Yes, and you
Hmm.
try to talk to him, and he doesn't he's fine, he's fine, he's fine. He
Mm.
doesn't wanna answer the questions. I try to word the questions differently. But if he gets upset, like he threw a baseball yesterday, Calvin didn't catch it, it dented the car. I happened to
Whoops.
be at a window where I heard it happen, so I opened the window, I'm like, "What?" And I just got mad. He didn't even need me to say anything to him. He went to his room, he
Mm.
cried for a while, didn't want me to talk to him, and then he came out of the room and, like, started to we have, like, a little pull-up bar in their
It's
room, and he, like, started
great.
just doing pull-ups, just
Mm.
silly
So
pull-ups,
good.
like, he was more
Yeah.
just, like, hanging and flipping and all that kinda stuff. But it got him back on track. He was
Mm.
smiling and he was happy again, even though I was still mad. I was really mad. It's my new minivan. How could you have dented my new minivan? Um, and then Rusty, he's just a puncher. Like he
Mm.
just if his brothers are bothering him or if anything's on his mind, he punches them or like he'll say at night like he'll just kind of start crying, so he's just like very like outward with his emotions. But something like a calm down corner or a routine, how important is that to find exactly what each kid needs, and how can a parent find exactly what each kid needs to do?
I think it is an incredible, worthwhile exploration for every parent to take that journey with kids. And I think helping them figure out two things. One is, how can I pay better attention to when I feel these signs and signals in my body? And what I think is the long game journey within this is them not only paying attention, but figuring out in different seasons what's something that maybe works for me now. I can remember when my kids are young adults now, but when they were in college, calling to check in on one of them, and it was about time for exams, and saying like, how's it going? And he said, Dad, I feel really stressed, and so I ran 3 miles this morning.
Wow.
And it was that long journey benefit of, I've been paying attention to these things along the way, and this is a great outlet for me in this season of life to get that release. So I love that you're taking that journey right now.
Me
Yeah.
too.
I'm trying, thanks to you guys.
Oh.
What is the science behind the belly aches? I remember getting belly aches. I couldn't leave the house. I would always have like a secret little bottle of water I would keep with me so my parents didn't yell at me, but I'd always just wanted water by my side because I knew I was going to get a belly ache. What is the science behind a belly ache and anxiety?
I mean, there are so many shifts that happen in our bodies when we get anxious, and one of those is our digestive system changes. And so it really does impact. It's all driven by that amygdala that we were talking about. And so it's this ripple effect, and our stomachs are part of it. If we could take kids across development, basically the scariest thing they can imagine is where they get stuck in the loop. And so we'll see it shift from little bitty ones being away from mom or dad, and then the amount of kids we've seen over the years who've been to one birthday party and one person throws up.
Oh, yes.
And so then anytime they feel the least bit funky, they think, oh no,
I'm
going to
throw up. I'm going to throw
and then
up.
their body
That
gets
was
on
my
board.
fear.
Yes. And then they throw up. I mean, we see so many kids who vomit before school in the morning, which is, again, goes back to the idea of how do we help them learn these calming techniques, that it shifts their body back to their thinking brain and their body to the rest and digest state is what we call it.
I want to talk about divorce. It's not something any, parent wishes on their kids, but relationships take turns, things happen, and sometimes that's just how it ends, right? A relationship ends in divorce, but there are kids involved. I think the old school mentality is stay together for your kids, wait till they graduate high school. I thought about that for a little bit, but I felt like I could have a better relationship with their dad with divorce, and we can be better parents for the kids. What do you do when there are kids involved? What is the best advice?
That's a hard question because every situation is so different. And we would say, trust your intuition, just like you did. And we have talked so much lately about how this is bigger than divorce, but that there are a lot of experts saying a lot of things right now through our devices, and that we believe it's making parents doubt their own intuition. And your intuition, I mean, Dylan, sitting with you, it's so obvious your intuition is your superpower. And anybody who's listening to this, it's the same. And so we just would say, trust your gut on what you feel like your kids need the most, because there are times that they don't need you to stay in it and it's more damaging for them. And then there are times that maybe for them to see you go another round of counseling and see if you can work it out is great for them too.
Yeah. How do you handle their emotions? Because they don't know, I shield them from what I'm going through, right?
Yes.
I would never say anything bad about their dad, and he would never say anything bad about me to them, right? Like, we're their parents. We love them. They are surrounded by nothing but love. So they don't know the nitty gritty. They don't know all the details. They might not understand it. They might blame one parent, like it's your fault that you guys aren't together anymore. Like, how do you handle their questions, and how do you make sure that they're okay with the decision they don't really understand?
One rule of thumb we talk a lot about is how we really believe that kids have an internal thermometer that allows them to know the information they're capable of working with, and that they'll ask questions in different moments all on the way if they can absorb that information. And so we can then trust, if they're asking a question, I can give a factual, age appropriate answer. and then follow their lead on if they want to talk more or ask more, or if that's as far as they needed to go in that moment. And I've had a lot of parents of boys in particular over the years who've answered a question and then kept talking more, only to find their sons say, "Can we be done talking right now?"
I
And
noticed that. Because
yes,
they will ask a little bit, and I'll answer I'm always very honest with them, and I
Yes.
answer again age appropriately
Yeah.
their questions. But
Mhm.
then I think we're going to have another deep conversation, and they're on to the next thing.
They're
Can I have a
done.
play date? Can I go
Yes.
outside? It's interesting.
It
So
is.
I guess you kind of have to take the kids' lead.
Yes,
we talk about
exactly.
conversations in doses, and
Mhm.
it's a little like the way kids navigate swimming in a pool. Like they can only go underwater for so long, and then they're ready to come up and catch a breath. And we as adults can stay underwater longer. We can stay in harder conversations longer, but allowing them to move in and out of the harder conversations and back into play. It's honestly a really healthy way of coping that we can tend to lose as adults.
I find sometimes, when it comes to co-parenting,
Mhm.
like if the kids see us too happy together, right? If we're joking or laughing, well, why aren't you guys still together,
Yes.
right? Like there's always still that underlying reason why the divorce happened in the first place. So, what is the proper way to co-parent? Can you be I mean, I want them to see us happy. That's why we did this, right? And we can be
Yes.
happier separated than together. But is that confusing for kids, Because I always remember my parents are separated. And even to this day, I'm 44 and I see my parents laughing and smiling. I'm like, oh, maybe they do like each other,
Yes.
And it's like,
Yes.
so how do you not get your kids' hopes up, but still be happy and in a relationship that they should see?
The parent trap phenomenon is real. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember I had these really sweet neighbors who were getting divorced, and their son came over and he was pressure washing. He was probably 11. He was pressure washing my driveway. And we were sitting talking afterwards, and I was just saying, "How are you doing with all this?" And he said, "I'm fine. I'm okay." And his parents were across the street and they hugged.
Hmm.
And he said, "Oh my goodness, they hugged, they hugged, they hugged."
Oh,
And
wow.
it just broke my heart for him. And I think
Yeah.
that's a picture of kids hold on to a lot of hope. And just like
Mhm.
you said, if there's a sense that there's this moment that passes between you, I think they can slip back into that. So I heard someone say once, I don't know if I've ever said this to you, that it should really be your interaction should be like a drive through window, that you are so
Hmm.
pleasant
Mhm.
with each other and they just don't last long. And
Mhm.
one thing I would say too, Dylan, and this is so specific, and I met with a couple who was getting divorced 2 weeks ago and talked about this very thing, which is strange if you're not anywhere near this, but I really recommend that parents not do holidays together, not do
Interesting.
events together, because what I think happened, what we've seen happen so many times, is then if one gets remarried,
Mhm.
the reason you're not together
Is that other
is the
person.
new person. It's their
Yes.
fault.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so kindness is so important. It is fabulous when you can
Mhm.
get along. And we have a friend whose parents are divorced and they do holidays together with new spouses. So
Oh,
if you can sustain that,
then that's
awesome.
great.
Yes. But if you can't,
Yeah.
you don't want to have 10 band-aids ripped off
Mhm.
along the way to go ahead and make
But
the changes.
while all this stuff is happening, like
Yes.
I'm just imagining if Christmas comes and we're not all together, right? Like, do you have those conversations beforehand? How much credit do you give kids that they can handle these reality type conversations?
The research has long said, and I think always will say, that kids are capable of navigating any significant life transition as long as they have at least one safe, steady adult in their
Mhm.
life. So if kids have two safe, steady adults, grandparents, aunts, uncles, a village, it's just
Mhm.
icing on the cake at that
Yes.
point. And so their capacity is extraordinary if that is firmly in place. And then we talk them through and give them space to ask the questions they need to ask about what it feels like to navigate these new significant milestones in different ways.
Mhm. I want to focus on technology.
Mm,
I just don't let my kids have it. I mean,
good for you.
I would rather play Nintendo and play video games with them on a TV. I would
Yes.
rather watch movies with them, even though Spaceballs probably is not appropriate for a 4-year-old, but they laughed and loved every minute of it. I can't stand the phone and the iPad. They are different
Mhm.
people when they're on it. They're
Yes.
like zombies over in the corner. They're not nice when you have to take it away.
Yes.
They're fine when you turn off a TV, but if you
Mm.
turn off an iPad, they are just mean little monsters. What is going on with technology. What
Mm.
physically impacts children?
Yes, there's so much that physically impacts children. I mean, from dopamine, that there's so much happening in their brains that we don't want to be happening,
Mhm.
released by a screen, created by a screen. And I had a teenage girl that I was counseling who was really anxious. And I talked to her psychiatrist, and she said just the amount that's coming at them so
Mm.
quickly visually, it is actually activating their amygdala. So it's making them
Really?
more anxious
Anxious?
in the moment, too, from a physical standpoint. There's so
Wow.
many things that we could talk about that screens are doing.
Mhm.
Certainly, socially, there's so much being impacted right now that we're seeing
Mhm.
social anxiety worse than ever before because of screens.
Is it that FOMO? Is it just watching other people post the best of their life and you think your life doesn't even compare to that? I mean, how do you keep kids off of screens, yet also not feel like they're the only ones,
Hmm.
and they're left out of everything else their friends are doing?
We have a rule of thumb with screens, and whether it's their first tablet, whether it's social media, whatever it is, that you don't want to be the first because then
Mhm.
they're often going to be more cutting edge. You don't want your kids to be that.
Mhm.
You also don't want them to be the last, because really our job is to teach them responsible technology use while we're around, and we can help
Mhm.
them when they make a mistake, which they will in this day and time. And so we genuinely say to parents all the time, so be the next to last. I mean, keep abreast of your
Mhm.
community and what kids have and what they're using. And I mean, and I see parents all the time, you probably do too, who will come in and say, we know the next to last rule, and that's what we've done. Everybody's there almost, except
Yeah.
for us. And so they're hopping on. And that way you're keeping them, and probably because I work primarily with girls, there is a point that that's all the communication. It's all
Mhm.
happening there. But we want to hold off as long as we possibly can.
Yeah. Is there an age where screens or social media can be considered, like up until this age, absolutely not, but after this age, sure.
Hmm.
Like, what is that age?
Jonathan Haidt, has
Mhm.
said high school for a smartphone and
Mhm.
social media at 16, which I think can be wonderful. If it
Mhm.
feels like, again, in the next to last range, if you can hold off that long, that is
Mhm.
amazing for kids. And if it means your child doesn't know when things are happening, isn't included at all, then I think it's probably okay a little younger.
Yeah.
So I really would kind of stay within that sense of community,
Mhm.
but the later the better
Yeah.
in
I know.
terms of
I
even
told
brain
Calvin
development.
16. I'm like, it's
Yeah,
just not
that's
happening.
good.
Just
That's
stop
Good
great.
for
asking.
you.
He also
Yes.
wants to wear sweatpants to school. I'm like, also not happening. You're wearing jeans to school. So it's like nobody else is wearing jeans. I'm like, well, it's almost short season, so you don't have to worry about it.
Yes.
So
Right.
yeah, I mean, there are some things you just have to lay down the
Some
law
Mhm,
as a
lines for
parent.
exactly.
sure.
We normally do this thing called parent confessions,
Okay.
but I want to give you guys a couple of things. I have some
Okay.
paddles here.
Okay.
And we're going to go through what's a small deal and what's a big deal, right?
Okay.
And then we
Love
can kind of talk
this.
about
That's
each one.
awesome.
Like, which one do us parents not need to really worry about?
Okay.
Okay.
It's
And
gonna be fun to
which
see if we
which do
agree.
we
It
need to
is.
step in? So, the first one here, a parent admits to you that they have a favorite child.
Mm,
A small deal. See, I would
Mhm.
think that's a big deal because in my head, I'm thinking there are times I have a favorite child.
I think it's the honesty of a parent saying that because I think
Hmm.
every one of us has had that experience in some moment or in
That's
some
normal.
season. Yes. And
Okay.
so I don't think that's a big deal. Now, if we find that it is getting in the way of the connection we want to have with our other kids, then that's something to
Hmm.
explore. But I think it's an honest confession.
and
Okay.
we talk so much about how, in all these years of doing this work, we really believe every parent has one child who pushes their buttons the most.
Yes.
And it's often the oldest of their same gender or the one that's most like them. And so
Interesting.
I think it might feel like another is your favorite. And it's not necessarily even that that's the case. It's just that the other one maybe brings up more of your
Yeah.
stuff.
What if a parent tells you that they just don't like their kid's best friend? Is that a big
Mm,
deal or a small deal? Small, really? Because I think if I don't like my kid's best friend, they're going to grow up and they're going to just be bad kids together. Like, how can you regulate who your
mm,
kids are friends with so that they're not mixed up in a wrong crowd, I
yeah.
guess?
Well, I think it's important to note first, we can't choose our kids' friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually finish that sentence by saying to parents, how many adults do you know whose best friend now is exactly who was their best friend in first grade? So I think
True.
having that long game perspective of
Mhm.
a lot of friendships run their course.
Mm.
And I find a lot of boys in certain seasons are really drawn to what I call charismatic characters.
Mm.
So it may be the funniest, loudest, most obnoxious guy in certain seasons, and doesn't mean his capacity for choosing good friends is off. That barometer's broken in some way, but just in that season, he's more drawn to that. And in certain seasons, boys are. And then I watch boys move out of that and find their way to friends who are more steady and loyal and
Interesting.
dependable.
How about, let's say your kid wants something like a pet or to go on a particular vacation. Is it okay for parents to lie about why they can't exactly have that pet?
It's a fantastic
That's such a
question.
good question.
Mhm.
Yes.
I'm going to go
Small
small
deal.
on that. Mm-hmm.
So little white lies are okay? I feel like my
think
parents
so,
told a
in
lot of them when
something
I was
like
little.
that. Yes. But I was curious what you were going to say, because we're huge fans of pets for kids as
Yeah.
therapists. I mean, the amount of kids who will say to me, I remember a girl specifically saying, the person I talked to most when my dad died was my dog.
Oh, wow. What do you like? What about when your kid is constantly fighting with another child? I mean, right now I'm dealing with it. You know, Rusty's his go-to is to kind of like backhand one of the other ones if they're too close to him. But even as they get older, I know some siblings who just fight and they just do not get along. Is that a big deal or a small deal, or is that just part of the relationships they have to go through? Really?
Mhm.
Small deal.
Mm-hmm. And the good news in that is that we tend to forget, it's easy to forget, I think, with sibling conflict, but even peer conflict, that's where kids are building social muscles.
Yes.
And if it's not clumsy in certain
Mhm.
moments, there's not as much opportunity for skill development. I mean,
Yes.
every parent living would say, I'd rather they just get along all the
I
time,
know.
but there
Can't you
wouldn't
guys
be
just
that
get along?
opportunity for skill development. So it's the flip side of the conflict that I think is helpful and makes sense.
And what's most important is helping them move toward repair.
Yes.
That
Mhm.
really the degree of fighting is not a predictor of their friendships in
Okay.
adulthood.
Yeah.
But helping them learn to work through it in healthy ways can be
Mhm.
such an important tool in that.
And just one more question. I think I know what you guys are going to say. For the child who creates a secret social media account
Mm.
that their parents are not aware of, I know there are also other sites that, other social media sites that kids can go to and create an account that they don't think their parent is aware of. Is that a big deal or a small deal? You're torn.
I'm going to say big deal in the sense of the dangers that exist in that
Yes.
space that kids could find their way to. Small deal in the sense of they're going to fumble the ball in their use of technology, no
Yes.
different than they're going to have a fender bender in learning to drive. We talk a lot about the
Mhm.
comparisons between those two. So we don't need to panic when kids make mistakes, but we
Mhm.
absolutely want to have awareness, knowing that there's some really scary things happening out there in
Yeah.
the world. And we've heard way too many of those scary stories to
Yes.
not feel like there's not a big deal part of that.
Do you let them know if you find that secret account? Yeah.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of parents who will bring their kids in for counseling and say, I found a secret account. Will you get them to talk about it? Which is, it's just easier if we can go ahead and say, let's talk about what's happened. Here are some consequences.
Yes.
And here's how we move forward and
Yeah.
build trust back.
Mm-hmm. You guys are so wonderful.
Oh, Dylan,
Thank you
are
so
too.
much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
It's such
I'm
an
just
honor.
so glad to share everything you guys have to offer with a different audience and just
Aw.
to continue to build the people that just love you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you see why I love them so much? I mean, they have helped me through some difficult times in my kids' lives, and their advice is so practical. There's not going to be a kid out there who doesn't feel anxious or go through periods of anxiety at some point in their life. And as parents, I think we really need the tools to help them get through it. So these are the tools you need. This is what you need to know to help your kids get through some of the most difficult times in their life. They need to be able to come to us. And to be honest, some of these tips to get through these anxious moments, I use as an adult, and maybe you can too. So I'd really love to know what you think. Share your comments, share your opinions. Just go below and write some of those things down. And also you can follow us on Instagram at Today Parents or at Dylan Dreyer NBC, and DM us there too. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch the Today Show every morning on NBC or take Today when you're on the go. Just follow the Today podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.